Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Daffy. And tonight, I don't know why, I feel like we have some sort of a duty, Daffy Boy, to come on here and do a preview episode, but it is our round 23 clash, West Coast v Carlton at Optus Stadium, Sunday, 18th of August, 4:40 p.m. We were just having a little bit of a speak off air, Daffy Boy, and I don't know, like we've had a few days to kind of reflect of the Hawthorn loss. It was obviously a very, very tough and crap moment in the season, but there's a bit of lap going back, boy. I don't know about you. It's just a little. We thought we would start the episode like that, but first things first, mate. How are you? And give me your initial thoughts ahead of this interesting clash on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not feeling positive whatsoever heading this game. I'm usually optimist when we come in. I think that's been broken now. I think we've been made to look like fools in the last 6 weeks. I tried to instill belief in this team, but I've lost that belief for this season. I think we're cooked. I don't think we're going to make an impact. I don't think we're going to win this weekend. That's just a little bit of a sneak peek of this week's game. I'm not saying we can't win this weekend, but I just the form and the injuries, it's just all mixing into one, and we're playing West Coast away. So it's really not an ideal fixture to head into whatever's happening right now. But we're obviously going to touch on our selection, and that's going to be very interesting. But yeah, very, very disappointing times. We've just fallen off a cliff. I've never seen a team fall off that bit much from where we're seriously. I don't think I've seen it. You always see teams, die out maybe from halfway in the year. Like we were top 4 round 19 or 20, and now we're 9th. So I'm actually never seen it, and it had to be us, didn't it? It just had to be us to do it, and we just clearly haven't grown enough mentally. Like you said in the review, maybe we are letting the pressure get to us, and the confidence just goes down the drain. But yeah, heading into this game is. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know how to look at it. I'm not looking forward to it. Let's be real.
I think there's a lot of different opinions and emotions that a lot of Carlton supporters are feeling right now. Where also we've had a few days to reflect. And I mean, I said to you after the game, the day after the game, and I was saying to you, like, usually I'm a little bit better the day after, but it just, I almost felt worse.
Yeah.
And I was hearing more opinions and different opinions, and people saying, "Oh, yeah, you still got a chance, and it's all right." Like, I mean, even one of my best mates, Liam, he's a Pie supporter, and he sent me a message saying, "Oh, it's all right. Like, we're already all in the same boat." But I'm like, "Yeah, it's different though."
Yeah, it is.
It's like you could say like all that, but we were there, and now we're there. Like now we're here, so. There's definitely a lot of emotions going through my head. I'm not sure about you and everyone else watching this episode right now, but I guess we have to try and just see some sort of positive. I think I'm the exact same as you. We are. I'm I'm an optimist. If it does come to Carlton, I usually try and see the positive side of things, but it obviously is very hard. And I think right now I'm going through a bit of a delusional stage of also there might still be a little bit of a chance. But I mean, look at the ladder. There is still a chance, but as you were saying as well, we don't deserve it, and also like it would be a joke if we make it, as you said. But Daff, will move right into the injury list, and my golly gosh, there is a hell of a lot of names there. But obviously, I have actually written a lot of these names down, and when I was writing these down, that it was crazy how many injuries we have. And a good mate of ours, Barney, sent us a message, and he was saying that 12 players from our finals, from our semi-final last year, are injured. So out of that team, 12 of those guys, which is pretty much half of the list, obviously going off 23 players, but half of those guys, more than half, are actually not playing this. Like, that's unbelievable to think about.
Yeah.
But Daf, if you want to take us through, I guess, the names there, because there is a hell of a lot of names, and obviously there's so many injuries, so many different injuries, so many different timelines and time frames for these injuries. But take us through some key names, mate.
Well, yeah, we've not really had the best injury luck this year. I think it's cost us a lot. I'm not, it's not an excuse for form, and well, it can be. I think it can be. You got guys coming in and out all the time. We've spoken about continuity in our side. We've had the lack of that, and when we did have continuity, what happened, Patto? We won 5 or 6 straight. So it definitely plays a part. But I'll just run through the 140 names of injuries we have from the weekend as well. Like, it's just unbelievable. But I'll go from the top. Obviously, Jordan Boyd. I hated how his injury was dealt with on the weekend. I think it was an absolute. We had one. So what happened was, I just listened to it before. We kept a midfield rotation on Sunday to make
On the
sure.
bench. On the
Yep.
bench. Yep.
Yep. To make sure we could have rotations through there for Pitto and et cetera, et cetera. But we leave so the game is over. Okay. The game is over, and it's the third quarter. We're down by 10 goals, right? And we're keeping a guy out there who clearly is not right. That is just disgraceful. There's winning games of football, right? But the player welfare has to be priority. It just has to be. And yeah, well,
Sorry.
yeah,
What would you have done?
I'd take him off. If once the game's up, what's he playing the last quarter for, Pato?
But that means that we would have had no rotations on the bench.
Who cares? Who
Mm,
cares? You want to? So if we make finals, right? If we make finals, now Boyd's going to be out for the rest of the year because we left him out there and he's ruined his whole body. We've ruined his body out there and made it worse.
mm.
And it's over. Like, I get it at the start of the second half when you try to keep the rotations.
Yeah, yeah.
The game is over. Like, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's like, there's always this rhetoric and talk about player welfare. And you look at the Petrarca instance,
Spot
they
on.
kept it out there. I'm
Yep.
not saying it's obviously a lesser extent, but still, it could have been a 1 to 2 weeker. Now it's a 3 to 6 weeker. So, it's just, it really it bewilders
Is
me.
that
But
is that confirmed that so him keep because it obviously wasn't an adductor injury, so I don't think I mean I don't know, but I mean I've
yeah,
also had the injury and I think the longer you're kind of out, I mean I don't know if that would matter. Like, has it been a report of he was actually
yeah, I'm not too sure, but it's just more the welfare for me. You just do not leave him out there when you don't need to,
yeah,
especially with the injuries we've already copped.
spot on.
Surely you're thinking with 15 minutes to go in the last quarter, the game is done. The game
Yeah,
was done at half time, let's be real. But yeah, that's just my kind of take on that whole situation. Obviously, Chera's to be confirmed. I'd imagine that season done for him. Cottrell season with shoulder, Cunningham season with shoulder, Kerno 1 to 2, 1 to 2. TDK still a little bit of a ways away. I think he'd be right for the first week of finals if we do play it, which would be a miracle, first of all, to make it. And then the second miracle would be him playing. So, yeah, obviously he's had that foot. Is Fogarty done for the year?
yeah, collarbone.
So Jack Martin decides to run into his own teammate and hurt him. Could that be the most Carlton way to injure a player? I could not believe what he was doing. I'm all for running hard of the ball, but he knew a teammate was there. Like, it's just going to cause more harm than good. So that was just a car crash, like the weekend was, and our season is currently. Marchbank 1 to 2. Honestly, I think we almost take him off the injury list. I think we almost have a list when he's fit and say how many weeks he's going to be fit for at this stage. Martin's 1 to 2 with a hammy. No comment. And Mackay, obviously the quad at the end of the game, last 5 minutes, he did it. I think that'll be a 1 weeker, so he'll be back next week. And I really, with Martin and Sard, I really doubt it's 1 to 2. If it's a hammy, I doubt it's 1 to 2. That is interesting reporting or interesting information from the club. I hope it is 1 to 2, but I really doubt they'd be back for St Kilda, wouldn't they? Just with their history this year. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Because that's just, I try to go through it as quick as I can. Otherwise, because if we just dwell on it, it's just going to be, the talk of the whole episode. But what are your overall thoughts on it?
oh, even the small things of you kind of expected Charlie Curnow to potentially miss, obviously with that ankle injury. It's been an ongoing injury for a few weeks now, and you kind of expected it to be probably a potential rest for the next few weeks. And the day after, we hear about Harry Mackay having a quad injury, so that just keeps on tolling up. And obviously that quad injury that actually happened in the last few minutes, and I actually saw him. I think it was the last 30 seconds of the game, and he kicked the ball inside, and I can actually see where
Yeah. Yep.
no one even talk. I mean, I don't think a lot of people were talking about because you probably weren't really focusing on Harry Mackay at that stage. But where the camera angle was, you can actually see Harry kick, and he pulled up very short, and he was looking very sore. And I'm like, shit. So like it actually happened in the game, and like we kind of should have probably known about it, and no one even knew about it until obviously after the game. And I don't know if that was because I mean, a few people left the game, or we were just so focused on what was in front of us, in front of the ground. I'm not sure, but yeah, so many crucial injuries, isn't it? And we have to move into some very interesting ins and outs, and who knows, Daff, we might need to see some debutants come in this week. And I don't know if, I mean, as you were mentioning before we press record on the episode, a few guys that like this fresh light of like these fresh players that come into the side that might bring a bit of a fresh light for this team. I don't know if that will help us to make finals and come finals. Do we end up playing the same guys, or if these guys are fit like a Martin or a Mackay? I mean, obviously Mackay will come straight back in, but like say like a Sard and a Martin. I mean, Sard's a better player that I think he would have to come back in, but if these guys are providing more, it's an interesting one. And then you look at Adam Cherra as well, to be continued for a hamstring injury. My golly gosh, man. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's what I find interesting is that all the injuries have hit the same week as Andrew Russell has announced he's leaving the club. It's just like everything is just it's this giant shit sandwich. And it's just like everything, like our form is shit. Our fitness boss finally goes, and then we get all the injuries, and we lose by our biggest margin this year, all in one sandwich, and it's just hit as one. Just it's just does it? It always happens in 3 or 4s, doesn't it? With Carl, never just have a bad week or we lose by 10 goals. It has to be a 10-goal loss with 6 injuries. You know what I mean? It's just we can't go into this game against the Eagles with a fairly healthy list. We have to have injuries after getting smacked. So it's a tough task, I think, this weekend. But yeah.
And there's so like another thing also is West Coast have come off 2 wins. Like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Like they've just now they're starting and everyone's saying, oh, West Coast are actually quite a challenging side right now. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, of course, when we play them, of course, they're in form. Of course they are. It's actually nuts. It's at a point where, like, every single week we're playing against a side and we're like, now they're meant to be pretty crap. And then they would have won like 2 or 3 games prior. And I'm like, oh, great. Perfect time to play them. But oh yeah, mate, it's just so frustrating. So frustrating. And then obviously, a player that I didn't mention there was obviously Orazio Fantasia being a test, so that's a good player. I mean that's obviously a player that will be a potential in this week, and I mean we don't know if he will be potentially fit, but I think if he is a test and he is available to play, would you play him?
Surely, I think he has to, doesn't he? If he's fit.
Yeah. God, I mean, I'm not going to count how many there are, but I'm just looking at the injury list. It's fuck, mate. Like the amount of players there are, it's crazy. But Duff, is there anything else you want to touch on for the injury update?
Nah, all good. I want to get past that, and kind of getting past that, and we'll head into the obviously selection side of things this week, which is probably the toughest. I guess it is tough, but a lot of forced changes coming up.
Yeah, no, exactly right. So I'll throw it straight back to you, mate. So obviously ins and outs with your subs. So obviously we will be forced to make 6 changes this weekend. I don't know if you have any more omissions to make it 7 or 8 or not. Imagine if we were playing finals. I mean, imagine if we were still like 3rd or 4th on the ladder. And we had these injuries come now. Just imagine like 6 changes come into finals. This would be crucial right now to make changes because they're forced changes. It's unbelievable. And then it doesn't even obviously it's even worse because we're not. I mean, we're a very high chance to not play in the finals. But even if we do, we're making 6 changes 2 weeks prior to the finals as well. So there's a lot of conversation that has to go to, I guess, the chemistry of the side right now because 6 changes, key players as well. It's unbelievable. But Daf, your ins and outs and your sub, who have you got?
It's interesting. You know, I look at, to be honest, I've picked this and I'm not 100% sold. I think there can be other names. There'll be names that I haven't included, and I'll say those 2 names now. I haven't included Fantasia and Lewis Young, but I think now looking at it, you probably do play Lewis Young. But this is just my call now. It probably is subject to change. This is no lock. I'm just so all over the place with the changes right now. I'm really not sure who we bring in. So outs for me, just outs for all of us. Jack Martin, Harry Mackay, obviously Boyd, Kerno, Fogg, Sard. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you haven't had your head under a rock, I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory. Those outs, but ins for me. I've got Billy Wilson making his debut. He's going to play off half back, replaced Boyd and Sard out. Gee whiz. So he'll have to cover both of them. He's got good ball use. I guess he plays kind of similar way. So you're younger type, but my next in is Ashton Moyer. He's going to come into the side. I think he has to replace the kind of Jack Martin type hybrid role. So he's in for me. Harry Lemmy, he's in for me as well. So there's 3 debutants I've already named in the side. And it's very interesting looking at these names. But I've got Jackson Binns coming in as well. He doesn't count as a debutant in my book because he has played 2.5 minutes as the sub against Geelong. So he's in for me because he can play a few roles, half forward, wing, wherever you need him, I guess. And right now we need people just plugging holes. So I don't think we can worry about like for likes too much. And my next in, Cooper Lord is going to play on the weekend for Carlton. He will play. His form's really, really good. So I think he actually probably almost on the edge anyway for me. I think his form's been really good. So especially the way we've been playing, we almost need someone like that to come in. And I've changed my last in right now. I've changed it. And it was going to be Jack Carroll in the team. But I've swapped him with Lewis Young. And the reason is I'm putting Kemp up forward. Kemp at centre half forward. So Kemp up forward, gee whiz. We scored 38 with Harry and Charlie up forward on the weekend. I'm not sure how. Right. Anyway, so Kemp will be up forward for me. So Lewis Young goes back. I know we say it doesn't work with Wiedering, but we have to this week, I think. I just think we have to put him back. And he plays second ruck. He has to play second ruck. And the way Piternet's been playing, I honestly wouldn't even mind Lewis Young getting more fucking ruck minutes, to be honest. Like, look at last year when he played well against Freo and Hawthorn in those 2 wins. It was him and who was in the ruck? Him and Jack Silvani were in the rucks. That was an interesting time as well, but we're winning games. So, yeah, Lewis Young for me. And the sub, it's obviously got to be one of these ins. Chincotta's in to the 22. It's tough looking at this. It is tough. I hate debuting subs, but I think the sub. I think it has to be. Cooper Lord. The midfield's all right, but I just think we need a cover if someone goes down in that midfield, or it's not rolling well enough. I don't know. Like I said, it's a subject to change, and whatever you say in your selection, I agree with. There's all different alternatives, but I think what we both agree on is we're probably going to flip one of our defenders up forward this weekend. to accompany Harry Lemmy and Ashton Moyer. But yeah, either of those guys can be sub. Even Jackson Binns could be a sub. But Jack Carroll's definitely stiff to miss in my book. But I just feel like we don't really need a midfield. I know Cooper Lord is, but I think his form's actually been better than Jack Carroll's in the two. So you almost got to get that reward type element involved.
Yeah, I love it. And obviously I've got 6 changes
Yeah.
as well. But I've got a sub that you haven't named. So
Okay. Yep.
so I'll start off obviously with the outs: Boyd, Curnow, Mackay, Sard, Fogarty, and Jack. Hamstring, Martin, outs. So the ins, I'll go straight into it, and it's obviously Chincotta being upgraded from the sub, and then I've kind of put them in order to what kind of role they're replacing in a sense. So Chincotta is replacing the Jordan Boyd role. It's probably more the Sard role if I really think about it, but Chincotta to play in the, like, he's not playing as a target. He doesn't need a tag. He doesn't need to play in the forward line. He needs to be a defender. And I think this is a good opportunity for him because obviously he's been quite solid as a defender, and when he's had the opportunity to be that defender, he's been quite good. And once again, there's key outs right there, and I think he gets his opportunity. So Alex Chincotta upgraded. Harry Lemmy in for Charlie Curnow. He's another guy that I think he's just a straight swap. He needs to come straight in, and God, we were just speaking about Charlie Curnow. Sorry,
it's sad when you say Lemmy for Curnow. That just hurts. That just hurts my heart.
Yeah, and just I mean, like Harry Lemmy won out against Jeremy McGovern. Oh boy! But I mean, we don't really have much of an option there.
We don't.
He's probably used to playing against buddy Dom McKeown or Sam Doonan in the VFL, and then what do you know? In the VFL training, sorry, and then he's now coming up against Jeremy McGovern. But he just has to play, and his form's been solid enough. He obviously coming off a good VFL game, but the reason why we're acting like this is because it's obviously a massive step up from the VFL to AFL, but it's the opportunity. So yes, it's very, very lucky. He probably wouldn't have been playing at all this year, maybe even next year as well. But obviously he's been potentially given the opportunity to play as the key forward in a proud club, well, somewhat proud club. It's really starting to reach to the point of like, are we really that proud anymore? But we're not going to talk about that anymore. But Ashton Moyer as well. That's another play that, I mean, I was writing down and I had to make sure that he was included, and he's replacing the Harry Mackay role. But once again, it's not really replacing Harry Mackay. It's just, that's probably the only option. And he's probably more replacing the Jack Martin role. My in is Lewis Young. That was always an in. And I've written in brackets here, Kemp to play forward. So that's why that's why I smiled as well, because we had the exact same opinion. And Lewis Young probably has to play alongside Wiedering. I know that I'm always the person to be like, oh no, I don't want Young and Wiedering, but I'm more preparing for next year, Kemp not being that second defender. We have to prepare for that, because over the offseason, if we don't go after a key defender, I don't know what to tell you. So next year we have to really nail down on how this suits. And then obviously we know that Lewis Young isn't the future of that key defender in that back line. But he might play a few good games, and he might somewhat bring back that 2022 form, because he was solid in 2020. Yeah. He was solid, and I just don't know why in 2023 he just completely shut the bed. I can never understand it. But once again, it's an opportunity, and obviously Brady Kemp has to play forward. That was probably I mean, you can also mention Mitch McGovern as well, but I think I would rather McGovern in the back line and then playing Kemp as a forward. I think McGovern's impactful as a defender, especially Lewis Young coming in. But you watch what they'll do. They'll play Lewis Young in the forward line. They'll keep McGovern in the back line. They'll do the exact same thing. They won't try and change anything. They won't take any risks. Nothing. They'll just do the exact same thing. They probably won't even play Harry Lemmy or Jackson Binns. They'll probably play Fantasia, and they'll find a way to get buddy Jack Martin up this week. But who knows? But
they put Jordan Boyd in the goal scorer again.
Oh my God, could you imagine? Oh God, I don't even want to put that in my head. But my other in, Billy Wilson, fucking love
Yep.
it. It's another
Yep.
opportunity. And when I was kind of going through these ins, you had to replace Boyd off Sard with a like for like somewhat, and I think Billy Wilson is probably that the only option. And I mean, no disrespect, and I'm not saying he's the only option. I think he's somewhat earned the right. I
Yeah.
think probably a Jack Carroll probably should be in front of him to come back into the senior side. But as you said,
Yeah.
there's no midfielders injured, which is crazy. So
Yeah.
I think Billy Wilson will probably get his opportunity over Jack Carroll. And my last in, Jackson Binns in.
Yep.
Now, I've also got in brackets here, Acres playing more forward.
Okay.
That means that Binns and Hollins will be the main wingers, because I think Binns can run out a game. And then obviously I would love Acres as the winger, but
Yeah.
there has to be some changes there. And
Yeah.
it will still be way too small. So if we put Acres into the forward line, that might be the option as well. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that could be an option.
Oh, yeah.
And even Matt Kennedy is another player, but I love him playing in the midfield. And if he's coming off a 33 disposal game in the midfield, he is once again put back into the forward line. That's just unbelievable. But there obviously is a few options there. But my sub, Orazio Fantasia.
Yep.
As my sub.
Yep.
I was considering potentially putting Ashton Moyer as a sub, but I didn't want to debut a sub. And I probably would have liked Fantasia to come in to cover that, I guess, cultural role of pushing up the ground. But I do want to see Akers playing a little bit more forward as a target in there, because he's tall, he's body.
Yep.
And we obviously know how solid his set shot is. So I wouldn't actually mind that. And I've obviously given a lot of thought to this. And I think the centerpiece in that forward line has to be around Harry Lemmy. And it's crazy once again to say that, but it's a great opportunity. And I just think we have to we have to make some changes. But your thoughts on, I mean, I know that they're quite similar to yours, but obviously there are a few differences there. Any thoughts on that? I mean, especially with the Akers playing more forward. I mean, I know that we both kind of chose Kemp to move forward if Lewis Young wants to come in, but what's your overall thoughts, especially Razo Fantasia as a sub as well?
No, I agree. We're going to be seeing some players play midfield forward minutes, and it's going to be Paddy Cripps as well. He's going to be playing a little bit more time. No, just because he has to.
100%.
Will have to.
100%.
I think I wouldn't mind him coming out of the square for 50, even if 50-50, honestly.
100%.
I have to be. Then we're just backing the guys we've got in the midfield. And, if you bring in a Cooper Lord or even a Carroll, he can fill in those minutes. We've got to bite the bullet too. We've got to win the game. We've got to win the game. Can't win the game. So, for sure, we'll be seeing, especially with Akers playing that forward half, more of a forward half role here and there. And then obviously Cripps going in. I think we just have to have him in there. But he's a tall, what is he, 6'4"? He can play forward. His ability to impact the scoreboard has obviously got better the last few years. And if he's got more time up there, like you talk about Petrarca, you talk about Dustin Martins, sometimes their time's more split forward of the ball. So why can't Cripper be that player? This week, especially when you're down on forwards, you've got to have some sort of X factor down there or point of difference. Because like you said, I don't think we can just roll around with Harry Lemmy as our key guy in there. And we talk about Lewis Young potentially going forward. I wouldn't want to see that. But the only reason why I'd see that is just to somehow get a bit of a pinch hit, get the ball to deck, especially if Barras, and just to take one of those defenders away. That's the only reason. If I see him, then I'll go, okay, take, McGovern or Barras, take their impact out of the game rather than impacting the scoreboard. And if he does do that, hopefully that'd be great. But if he's there to just play as a second ruck, play forward, get the ball to deck, present up forward, because like who's going to be presenting up forward, Patto, on the wings, and without Harry, like if we're doing these dump kicks down the wing, we might have to have Lewis Young at half forward. I really don't know, but it's I guess those guys who are getting paid millions of dollars to be the bloody coach can figure that out.
Would you think Brodie Kemp could potentially be a bit more of a target? I mean, I know that we kind of both chosen Kemp to be that forward and then Lewis Young in the back line, but I do definitely see what you're saying. And I'm like, I think Lewis Young will probably be a bit more of a presence. But do you think Kemp could be that presence as well, airily as well?
Yeah, it could be, but obviously I've got him going forward, but I'm not confident with that either, to be honest. Like, just not
Yeah.
confident with him.
Yeah.
I thought he was horrendous on the weekend. Thought he was absolutely horrendous. And there was one moment where Gov gave him an absolute spray when he ran off his man 50 meters. He ran off his man to get to the ball that was 50 meters away and didn't actually impact that contest. Ball gets over the back and they end up kicking a goal. So I know that's obviously different playing down back to forward, but yeah, there's a few names there who would have got omitted if there wasn't for injuries. I reckon it'd be Brady Kemp and Jesse Motlop, those two names.
Oh, yeah, well, that's another name.
Yeah.
We obviously won't touch on, but I think he obviously has to play Jesse Motlop this week. But my other question before we move on to the opposition watch is, out of Matt Kennedy and Patrick Cripps, who would you rather play? Is that 50-50? Because I think one of them has to. And I think
Yeah.
Cripps been great in the midfield. I'm like, oh, I would love Patrick Cripps is at 50-50.
Yeah.
He's such a good midfielder, and I think we need him in that midfield that probably can't take him out of that just yet. But as you've mentioned, that
Yeah.
we have to make some changes. We have to we have to put some aces up our sleeves, as you love to say, because really, like, we're at a point in time where, I mean, Matt Kenny has been that one out forward, and he's coming off a 33 disposal game last week in that midfield.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best players on the ground, if not the best player on the ground. There needs to be some conversation about that. So out of Kennedy and Cripper, who would you play 50-50? Do you think it still would be Cripps?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think you can rotate them through those two, going through there, whether it's, him, Akers and him, Kennedy, Akers and Cripps going
Yeah.
through the forward line, or yeah, because they might want to keep Kemp down there in defence. I don't know. I really don't know what their thinking's going to be, because it's just interesting because they've got some forward targets down there. I'm just looking at it now. Obviously, you got Waterman, Allen, Darling, Marrick. Obviously, Bailey Williams goes down there at times. So yeah, maybe they focus defensive first. Maybe they go defense first. Keep the continuity down there, and just have kind of a different looking forward line. Whether it's Cripps up there, Kennedy, Lemmy, whoever. Maybe they just try and fix that up, because that obviously didn't work on the weekend. I don't think I think the way we play at the moment, I don't think anyone's going to kick goals. Like, we talk about such a difference, but on the weekend, we got Harry and Charlie, and like, imagine. I thought about it today. I was like, imagine if Sam Mitchell had Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow at his disposal for Hawthorn. Like, he's making Gunston, who's done, and Chol, who's been delisted by 70 clubs.
Kel
Look,
here.
yeah,
Oh.
well, he's going to be a very good player. But
Mm.
he's like, the way they play makes their forwards look really good, and obviously they've got to perform. But still, like, the way they play, like, compared to us, I don't even know if we know how to enter the ball inside 50. Like, we can't. We just can't. We have no ability. And someone was saying today, like, the difference, like, watching other teams, they fill me with more confidence than we do. Even when we were winning, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like in those 5, 6 weeks we were great, but I feel like the way we play is that we rely on 50-50 contests, don't we? And I feel like in those 5, 6 weeks we were winning those 50-50 contests, and that's not a good way of winning, I think, in my opinion. I just think, the way Hawthorn play, a lot of uncontested ball, rather than winning 50-50s, it's more of a structured game plan where, you're hitting up leads and you're switching back and forth, more uncontested, where ours is, if we aren't winning our 50-50 contest, we're losing the game.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who we're playing. So it's just, that's what I mean with the forward line. I just don't know if it's, like, obviously it's going to make a difference with that Charlie and Harry, but it's just the way we've been playing. I don't think it doesn't matter who's down there. We're going to struggle.
So you would rather make more sudden changes in the forward line than the back line?
Yeah, because I just don't know. Yeah, obviously I would rather not. But it's like everyone's going, oh my God, oh my God. But the way we've been utilising Harry and Charlie has just been pathetic. So that's what's worrying me as well. Just even if we do get him back, the way we're moving the ball, it's just, like I said, it's like the start of last year again. We can't score. We scored 38 on the weekend. That's horrendous.
So obviously our opposition's our opposition scores have been, like, they haven't been great. Now, I would put a lot of that towards the midfield and the center clearances, all that. But do you think, when you actually think about it, do you think the back line is somewhat doing their job week by week? I know that you look at that and you're like 112 points, 16 goals, 16. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. But do you still think the back line is still doing somewhat of their job?
Yeah, they are. I think it's so hard when the forwards aren't laying pressure in the forward half, in the forward 50. Our pressure has dropped off the last 7 weeks in the forward 50, and it makes it easier for teams to break the lines. And that's what Hawthorn did on the weekend. That's where it all starts. And I've said it for years. Team defense. People blame goals on defense. And of course, there's some stages where it does, right? But it's got to be hard when they're getting, like you said, 16, the 32 opportunities a goal. Like, is that really the blame of the defenders? Oh, I think it's just a lack of ability to stop them higher up the ground and the ability to defend higher up the ground. And it's cost us massively. And look, we've got Fogarty out of the team now. Like, gee whiz, he's probably the only guy who look like it in terms of defending in the forward 50. But yeah, it's hard to blame the defense, but I just think as a whole, our lack of connection on offense and defense is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's just embarrassing.
There's definitely a few names in that back line. I mean, like we even mentioned Brody Kemp. Like he has been great. And there was moments, there was a moment as well. I think it was Chol who was in the forward 50. And I think McGovern was like 20 meters in front. And I turned straight to my mate and I'm like, isn't the basic coaching when you're a junior to never let your opponent, if you're a defender, never ever let your opponent go in front of you. Sorry, the complete opposite. Never ever get in front of your opponent if you're a defender. Because if they've got the back of you and they've got space, well, worst case, you'll probably walk around like you'll try and like run at the footy and try and spoil it, but they'll probably get a free kick for front on contact.
Yeah.
And there was a perfect moment when that happened. And I think I'm not going to point out McGovern, but if it was McGovern, it was definitely McGovern or Kemp. It was one of the two. And it was the misconnection where they swapped Chol with Gunston in terms of Wiedering. So Wiedering was on Chol, Wiedering was then on Gunston. So I saw that. It was Gunston and Chol inside the forward 50, and Wiedering was on Gunston at the time. So there was obviously misconnection with Kemp and McGovern. But if I do use McGovern as an example, he was like 20 meters in front of Chol. And I'm like, the basic fundamentals of defense is never let your opponent get in behind you. That's the worst case, especially when they've got another 30 meters from goal with no one protecting it. It would be different if McGovern was in front, then Kemp was still behind. Because if they're going to bomb it in, but what do you know? Carl Amon smacked it straight on the boot and Chol marked it.
Yeah. I think in terms of that defense, I agree. I think a lot of the time the basic defending is staying behind, but I don't mind when you're playing in front as a zone because you're actually blocking the space, the leading space, and I get you over the back. I completely agree. But I think what's hurting us is that lack of connection, like you said, with McGovern and Kemp, where he's in front of his opponent and he's trusting his mate behind him and he's not coming across. That's what it is. That's how we've defended the last few years, and I like it because you actually block the space of your opponent leading. But like you said, if Carl Amon kicks it over the top and your teammate doesn't come forward to defend, like the one behind, to cover you, you may as well stop doing it. And we keep doing it the last few weeks, and we've been pounded inside 50. How many over the back goals have we conceded? It's ridiculous. Like we almost play too attacking at some points when we don't need to be. Like I said in the video, we attack too hard when we need to slow down. We do it's too fast and we need to slow down. When we need to slow down, we are fast. Especially coming from D50, there was times like even I hate pointing out Gov, I think he's had a good year or whatever, but he dropped that mark, picked it up, and then kicked it straight to them. Remember that rushed kick? Like, why rush? It's the lack of connection, Patto. And like you said, you cannot be playing in front of your opponent if we're struggling to defend, full stop.
Yeah. So that's my question, though. And that's why I do somewhat disagree a little bit, is if you're trying to block the leading pattern,
Mm.
they've got a harder shot. So if that player is behind the footy, behind the opponent,
Mm.
they've got a harder shot. You probably, if they are to have a shot inside forward 50, you probably would rather them have them on the 40-meter
Yeah.
radius, I guess, in that forward 50. But
Mm.
if they're bombing it in and Chol gets a 20-meter mark directly in front, that's when I'm like, what are you doing? But if
Yeah.
you're trying to block the lead, yes, of course, that might be an easier kick, but they are getting easier shots on goal. It would be different
Yeah.
if that player wasn't there and behind the
Yeah.
opponent. Would you agree somewhat?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I just think we're just not coming across enough to defend. I think the modern day, you're mostly defending that front space, that frontal space, if it's like a zone defense. So I remember playing last year, and our method was you've always got to keep in front. It's a weird thing to. I know it's like I agree. I think a lot of the normal defending is on your man, keep touch behind him, of course, and I agree. But it seems to be it's a lot of teams are doing it, and they got the zone, and you're forcing him to go over the top, like you said, which might end up in an easier shot, but it actually almost means it's easy to defend in terms of your guy coming across. Because in the old game, it's a one-on-one game, and the way Carlton want to defend is not one-on-one, is it? What we
No.
want Wiedering to come across. So that's probably where they're trying to do it. You know what I mean? They're trying to see if Chol's a leading player. Like that's what a lot of teams do to Charlie. They just block his leading lane. And then what do we do, Patto? We just go, oh, we'll just bomb it up in the air. And what do? The intercept defenders just come across and punch it out all the time. Look at Weddle on the weekend. How many times did he do it? Like
Mm.
it's just it's really how in sync you are. Like if you're not in sync, you've almost got to revert back to what you said. And don't give up the front space. Give up the front space or let a midfielder come and block that space.
Exactly right. Like,
But
why isn't the sorry?
it depends on the situation of the game. Like if you're defending well and your teammate's covering it and you're covering the front space, then you're blocking both types of kicks. But if
Mm.
you're not doing that, like you said, you're just going to give him easy shots. There's no point of doing it.
Mm.
So yeah, it's such a coaching thing too. It's like when do you pull the trigger and go, nah, we need to go back, just play man on man. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think the like our structure and I think our method is
Mm.
evolved around that the attacking winger and the defensive winger. And the defensive winger isn't doing their role. And whether it's Blake Acres, because I know that Acres and Hollands, and if it's Cottrell on the wing, or even if it was Sam Doherty last year, there were a few times throughout the game where Acres would go forward and then Doc would go back. And then obviously we saw
Yeah.
like in the semi-final last year, obviously Blake Acres was that attacking winger, but then
Yeah.
Doherty was on the other side. So because he was the one kicking it in that
Mm.
famous semi-final goal. So
Yeah.
that's just crucial moments where I'm like, that shouldn't be McGovern's role because his opponent's inside the forward 50 on his own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's just why. And then I mean, obviously I played a lot of years of footy as well. And then I didn't really play in the back line a lot, but when I was in the back line, I was told not necessarily be arm in arm on your defender, but never let them get behind you.
Yeah.
Because front on contact comes involved, but also they've got an easier reach. And you can't do anything. Like if the ball gets bombed in and you're seeing your opponent all on their own and you're trying to it's harder to spoil it like that than come in behind like over the top
Yeah.
and spoil it. Just small things like that. It just
Yeah.
confuses me.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I think we've just got to keep backing in team defense to be able to cover those kicks over the top, but we just weren't covering them well enough on the weekend.
Mm. So we'll now move on to the opposition watch, Daffy Boy. And obviously for the people who don't know what this is, we go through backline, midfield, and forward line for the forward line for the West Coast Eagles, West Coast Eagles this week. And then we obviously touch on one player from each line and kind of explain why they are a bit of a threat come Sunday twilight, 4:40. Taffy Boy, your backline opposition watch for the West Coast Eagles. Who have you got?
Yeah, well, obviously, Barras was out last week. I'm not sure how long he's out for.
He's a
Of
test this week.
course he is.
Of course he is.
He's looking like he's going to Hawthorn, so that'll be a fantastic get for them. Holy shit. Holy shit. Him and Sicily down back. Weddle can just float around wherever he wants to play forward, mid back. Holy moly, they're in for another era. Credit to the Hawks. But moving on to the defence, this guy is one of my favourite players in the competition when he's up and running. And I'd say this right now, without the injuries, he'd be 9 years in a row All-Australian. He's the best defender in the league when he's up and running by a mile, by a mile. People say he's great interceptor. I think he's one of the best one-on-one defenders in the league. He takes the best opponents. He's not like Stephen May and Lever where they're letting, someone else take a good opponent. He's going, I'm taking the best defender and I'm intercepting. He's a freak, this bloke. And it's obviously the brother of Mitch, Jeremy McGovern. He is a star, this guy. He won the grand final in 2018 with that mark. The ability to do that, and he obviously had broken ribs. But yeah, his form this year has been fantastic for them, considering that how many, they haven't won many games, but his form is still very, very good quality. I think people forget about him, don't they? He's one of those players. And gee, all I can say is he'd be absolutely perfect for us. And I don't know how old he is. What did he be? 32?
He's 32.
I'd take him. 2 years, I'd take him. 100%. If he was like, oh, I want to go to Victoria, I'd be throwing the kitchen sink at him for 2 years. There's no doubt in my mind. He could win us the premiership. Imagine him, Wiedering and Mitch McGovern. No, seriously, like he takes good opponents, but he's also an interceptor. It would change our whole look of the team massively because I just feel like it goes in our key defensive stocks. It goes Wiedering, and then it's a drop-off. It's too big of a drop-off for a team who wants to win the premiership. But yeah, Jeremy McGovern is obviously a watch, and who is he going to take? Who is he going to take? Because if he takes a Lemmy, I would see him flying for a lot of intercept marks and running off him. So it's, that's also when you look at Cripps or Kennedy, maybe they can try and play a role in him as well and force him to kind of have a defensive outlook rather than offensive outlook to the game.
Could you potentially play Lewis Young as a defensive forward?
Yeah, could. Even just as a forward, just to really, like, if Barras plays or not, like, I don't really know what their next look is in terms of defenders, like key backs. Like, it's not like great. I'm not sure how they won on the weekend. Let's be real. I know, considering North's talls, they stretched us out. I'm not sure how they didn't stretch the Eagles out. Well, they did probably for 97% of the game, and then the last 3% they lost. So, yeah, maybe you do play Lewis Young. I think Lewis Young has a role to play this weekend, whether it's forward or back. But yeah, McGovern's, I'm just keeping an eye on him.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. That was the play that I had as well. Jeremy McGovern. But obviously, I'm looking at Tom Barras as well, and obviously he is a test this week, and you just know whenever a player is a test against the Carlton Footy Club, they will always get up. They always find a way to get up. So I think he will be a test this week. And if he plays, he's almost more of an opposition watch more than Jeremy McGovern almost. Because you can kind of see both sides to it because when Barras is in, it kind of gives Jeremy McGovern more of that free flow intercepting, I guess, mode of what kind of Mitch McGovern does at Carlton. But yeah, I think when McGovern is on his own, he doesn't get found out, but he's kind of forced to be more of that lockdown and he can't intercept as much as he potentially could. And God, if he's coming up against Harry Lemmy on the weekend, if he was up against Charlie or Harry, different story. But if he's coming up against Harry Lemmy, that obviously will be a big task this week. And you can even look like a Jack Williams, who obviously plays a hell of a lot of forward at the West Coast Eagles, and potentially because like I was looking at their backline last week, and McGovern's the only tall. And I don't even know if you call Jimby a tall. He's not a tall. He's a midfielder. But he's been playing that half-back flank, but he has never played a key position. So it's going to be very interesting because I think we will have 2 to 3 keys come this Sunday. Because whether it's Lewis Young, Brody Kemp, Harry Lemmy, Mitch McGovern, also, he's another player. Who knows? The brother might go on the brother. Who knows? But there's obviously a few options there. But yeah, I think it's going to be Jeremy McGovern for mine as well for the backline opposition watch. But Daf, your midfield opposition watch for the Eagles this week, who have you got?
Yeah, they got some good mids, don't they? They go all right, some of their mids when they're rolling. This guy, obviously another guy who's always been hampered with soft tissue injuries, but I think he's probably their most important player when he's on the park. They win their games when he's playing, that's for sure, and that's Elliot Yeo.
Yeah.
For them, I rate him very highly. He's just a guy who can break lines. It's someone we kind of lack, isn't it? He's got a bit of pace, can play half back, can play in the middle, can go forward. We really don't have a player like that. So, yeah, Elliot Yeo for me. I just think he's that impact, kicks goals when he needs to kick goals. He's hard at it. He's a hard ass. So, and obviously he's re-signed for them, which is big for them. But yeah, he's my watch.
I love it, and the way that he goes about it. But my opposition watch, I hate to say it, I hate to do it, but it's Harley Reid.
Good
My
player.
golly gosh, he's an absolute superstar, and I would do anything to throw the kitchen sink at him. But I don't think we need him. Like, there's obviously a few. Wow, now that I'll say that, we probably do need him. But I think his best football is in the midfield. You can even play him one out in the forward line. Let's be real. But yeah, he's an absolute star, and I think he's definitely going to be an absolute star for the rest of his career. And whether that will be at West Coast, I'm not sure. I think it will be for a large part of his career. I think he's kind of set himself up over in the West, and I think he is in for a pretty, how do I say it? A pretty consistent year next year, but it's really more like after that, when Elliot Yeo retires, when a Tim Kelly retires, when those guys start to get out of the club, what's he
Yeah.
going to do? Because obviously he's been guided a lot through Elliot Yeo,
Yeah, yeah.
potentially Tim Kelly as well. And then obviously Andrew Guff was sub on the weekend. So that's another player that I don't know if he will play sub or if he'll come in. I'm not too sure. I think it's his retirement game this week, actually. Andrew Guff.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
his week because it's their last home game.
They're trying to get him at 300, I think. He's almost at 300. I don't know who they've got next week. It might be next weekend. The
Okay.
farewell. I'm not too sure.
Because they're playing the Cats next week, the week after,
Where's that?
GMHBA.
Oh, gee. So it might be his farewell this week, maybe. Oh, he's trying to get to 300, I hear. But, gee, I'd be very happy if he plays this week. He's fucking terrible. How bad has he become? The last three, since he punched Brayshaw in 2018 and missed the premiership,
Yeah,
he has been terrible.
it's a good point.
Absolutely terrible. And he almost cost them the game last week with that set shot with 40 seconds to go that he didn't make the distance.
Yeah, well, he's right now on how many games? 279.
Oh, is
Yeah,
he?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. 279 games. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think he'll play next year, will he? Surely.
No. He's retiring this year.
Yeah. So I think his retirement game is. I think I was hearing something about potentially it will be this week because obviously it's their last home game. But the way that the season's going, who knows, mate? The West Coast Eagles might have a chance to make the 8 as well. But yeah, I think Harley Reid is going to be an absolute star in the making, and he definitely is an opposition watch. But I completely agree as well with Elliot Yeo. But Daff, your forward line opposition watch there is obviously a guy down there who could be a big chance to win the Coleman this year in Jack Waterman, but there's a few others with obviously Oscar Allen being the captain of the club. He is the sole captain. I think he was co-captain last year. Oh no, is he still captain with Duggan?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, co-captain.
I thought he was. Oh no, he was captain when Liam Duggan was out with concussion. Yes. But your opposition watch for the forward line, Daff. Who have you got?
Yeah, they got some good names down there. Obviously, Waterman's probably the name. No, I'm going to go Oscar Allen, actually. I think he's kicked 5 or 6 on the weekend. Kicked that ripper to win the game for him on the ground. That was a ripping goal. I honestly think he was just trying to get the point to get the draw. Like, the way he kicked it was just a slap to get it over so they don't lose the game, and it ended up being a goal, obviously. So, yeah, he's a good player, and he just goes about his business. He's not a dickhead. He's quite a consistent footballer, and he's just come back from injury probably 6 or 7 weeks ago. So, yeah, he's one to watch, and I'd imagine Weeders takes him because Waterman often goes high up the ground. So you'd probably go McGovern or whoever's probably McGovern, I'd imagine. Probably can run with him or Camp maybe if he's still down there, but hopefully he isn't. But yeah, Oscar Allen for me.
I like it. I am going Jake Waterman as the opposition watch. But so probably expecting Wiedering to go to Allen, as you said.
Yeah, has to. I think. Yeah,
Who would go to Waterman?
Dove.
Jack Dale.
And yeah, that's the thing. If Lewis Young is playing, he almost. I don't even know, to be honest. So he'd probably go. He'd go to Darling, wouldn't he? Darling's probably the lesser talent. Well, not talented, but the way he's playing now, the impact on the game won't be as much as a Waterman or Allen. So he'd probably go Young to him. And then they got Marek. Yeah, Marek. You can chuck anyone on him. Put Lemmy on him if we have to. Not Lemmy, but it's I think the two to watch are Allen and, like you said, with Waterman. But he seems to play so high up the ground. I think he has the capacity to play on a wing as well. He's one of those types of old style half forwards like Richo and Fraser Gehrig and players like that and Nick Rewalt. Because his running capacity is really good, and obviously he's had to play. He was playing deeper, which he was kicking more goals when he was playing deeper without Allen, and now he's playing higher, and obviously that works better for West Coast, but that definitely doesn't help his Coleman credentials.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I'm checking the play tracking from last week, and then obviously Liam Duggan was the most with 15 Ks run, but obviously Waterman ran 14, and that was the fourth best. So that's another thing. I think that's a really good example of he's like the Nick Riewoldt, he's like the Matthew Richardson, he's a lot like, I mean, even Matthew Pavlich as well. I mean, like he's another player, but I just think I don't know what they'll do if Lewis Young does play in that back line, but I would see Young going to Allen and then Wiedering going to Waterman, and then when Waterman goes up the ground, maybe put in Newey or a McGovern in because he's not as much as an aerial threat when he's up the ground, but it's more like when he's inside that forward 50. That's when I worry about Waterman. And I think you have to put your best defender to your best forward. And right now, I think Waterman is that best forward. Obviously, that probably is a big call because I rate Oscar Allen so highly, but he's obviously coming off an injury. And I think he needs a few games under his belt. But obviously, if he kicked the match winner last week, he obviously will be quite confident right now. But yeah, I think my forward line opposition watch is, obviously Jake Waterman, as I've already said, but I think Oscar Allen is a big threat as well. But is there anything else you would like to touch on for the opposition watch?
Oh, nah. Obviously they're in form, but it's such a hard game to get a read on. It's every week gets harder and harder, and they got good players, but it's fucking West Coast, and surely we can't go into this game as favourites on the odds. I checked it before, and we're favourites somehow. I'm not too
100%
sure.
we will.
That is unbelievable.
I know.
I'd be loading up on the Eagles this week if I was a betting man, but obviously gamble responsibly.
Very, very, very well said. But you watch, we'll probably both load ourselves up on the Carlton Footy Club if we are the underdogs coming into this week. But yeah, I think 100% we will be favourites. 100%. I literally was speaking about it with my boss earlier today, and I'm like 100% we will be favourites because it's Carlton versus West Coast Eagles. And if you're kind of a realistic, like you probably look at me like, look, West Coast in their like home state, their home ground, coming off 2 wins. And a lot of people were like, yeah, but that's when they'll probably then lead to a loss this week against a good side like Carlton. We aren't good though.
No, yeah, we're not.
We're playing like shit.
Yeah, we're shit. Yeah, we're not good. So I don't know what the bookies are thinking or whatever. I don't. Maybe that's the odds will change over the next few days. I'd imagine, surely because of the injuries. I'd imagine so. And then when selection comes around, it usually changes the odds. But fuck, if they're not favourites this week, they're shit as well. Honestly, it's just unbelievable.
It's all good though, because when Harry Lemmy is listed to play, we will be favourites by $3 or $4, mate.
Oh Jesus! Seriously, it's going to be the most unenthusiastic watch of my life, but I'll get sucked in. I will get sucked into these idiots on Sunday. And all I can say is if we lose this week, holy fuck, that game against the Saints will be the deadest crowd I've ever seen in my life. That'll be the deadest thing I'll ever see. And I think I'm working at that game. So that'll be an interesting watch.
I told you I took work off for that game.
Put it back on, mate. Put it back on. Go for a walk around go to the shops. Go down the beach. Don't even fucking watch it. Don't even check the score. Just, just
Next
be
year,
be a normal human being and not be a fuckhead like we are watching these idiots and trying to figure out who's playing in the forward line.
oh my god, bloody hell! But no, you watch. Oh, I probably won't go to the game. I mean, I might, but you watch. I'll just be walking around. I'll be on the AFL app, percentage, live ladder. Oh, we're in the 8. We need to win by 250 points to win. To make the 8. Come on, bangers! Oh my god, we're only 20. We're only 210 points away. Oh, you what? It's a toxic mentality. I mean, I'm mentioning it in the review. Oh, it's at a point in time where it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. I can't believe that we've gotten through a preview episode for the West Coast Eagles round 23, Daffy boy. But I mean, obviously we'll now move on to the match predictions. And for the people who don't know what this is, we go through bag of the game, who is the player that we think will be the best player come Sunday twilight. The point of difference player, which is obviously quite self-explanatory. And that's obviously just a player that can make a difference on Sunday. And then winner plus margin as well. And this will be very, very interesting to see who we will tip, Daffy Boy. But your match predictions, mate, who and what have you got?
I've been thinking about this all day. Player of the game is going to be Jacob Wiedering. Going to be Wiedering. He's the only bloke I trust at the moment. Maybe him and Cripps are the only blokes I trust, which is absolutely terrible to think about at this stage of the year. So Wiedering will be our player of the game. Point of difference. It's going to be Billy Wilson off half back. I think he's going to provide some sort of, I don't know. He's just going to provide some. He's going to provide some, whether it's good or shit. He'll provide some. He'll be the point of difference for me. Little Billy Wilson off half back, and winner plus margin. I can't do it. This will be the first game I'm not tipping us. I'm not going to tip us on my tipping. I think we can win, but they don't deserve my tipping. This team, like you said, with the proud football, we are not a proud football club. We were a proud football club in the 90s. We are so far from that at the moment. But don't worry, there'll be fucking Mitch McGovern bobbleheads ready for you in the membership round in round 94 with 15,000 at Marvel after we lose to the Eagles. But I'm tipping the Eagles. Just because I can't put my heart through it again. I'm tipping the Eagles by 15 points. I think it's going to be one of those shitty games and they will win this game. But like I said, come to Sunday, I'll be watching the game going, we can win this game. But I've got to tip them just for my own good. They don't deserve my tipping or backing or support. They really don't. Seriously.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I was laughing because I've got the exact same predictions, mate. It's actually unbelievable. I'm like, all right. Point of difference. I don't reckon you'll tip Wilson because I'm like, there's a few there. I'm like, and then you said Wilson, I'm like, what? He just said Billy Wilson, but back in the game, I'm like, yeah, I think it's a good shout to do Jacob Wiedering. I reckon he probably would have because I just said he's the only guy that we can fucking trust at the moment. But I mean, I've got them, but I always like to be different, but they're the players that I'll put down, but I'll also mention a few. So, back of the game, I'll go Patrick Cripps.
Okay, yep.
Cripps has to be the bag of the game. But, I mean, there's obviously a few things that might happen to Cripps come Sunday where he might have to play forward. And sorry?
Kick a bag. That'll get him the best players.
God, imagine that. God, imagine if he kicks like 4. I mean, he said Shoson's improved as well. So that could actually be a good shout. So, Cripper, back of the game. Point of difference, I'll go Ashton Moyer. Love a bit of Ashton Moyer playing that forward line. So he will be my point of difference now. Winner plus margin.
Oh no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't.
Why have I done?
No.
Why have I done this?
No.
No, I'm kidding.
I was going to
I've
say,
got West Coast by 24 points.
yeah, yeah.
Even that is a 4-goal loss to West Coast, man. Seriously? But
I don't know. I don't know if it can get any worse at the moment.
uh, it was actually so funny when I was doing it. I'm like, oh, I really wanted to go.
I know.
And I'm like,
no, we just can't. They don't deserve it.
yeah, I completely agree.
We're no good at the moment. And like, it's so bad. Like we just set up this year. I'll say it again. We set it up we're 11-4. We just smashed Geelong, right? And then we beat Richmond by 10 goals. And we had the easiest draw ever to finish the year, and we fucked it up. But anyway.
Oh, we were second on the ladder in round 19. Second on the fucking ladder. It's actually astounding.
That's like more angry. It's not like we've been like, seventh, eighth, ninth the whole year. You know what I mean? Like your mate said with Collingwood, I reckon they've been pretty piss poor all year.
Fuck yeah.
And like they almost let us beat them last week. Like, and we've been terrible. We were terrible that night as well. So yeah, I think it's just a different scenario this year. They just bring out these different scenarios and different ways to fail us, don't they? It's just a fail. We are just a failure of a football club at the moment.
And it's even worse when you got supporters like me be like, I want to tip the baggers. I want to tip them. But you're at a point in time where you're just like, you know what? Fuck this.
Yep.
I'm gonna waste my emotion on this energy in this world of supporting a sporting club. Like, it's actually unbelievable how much we care about it.
Yeah, I know.
I probably wouldn't want it any other way, but I mean, when I'm probably 75 years old and I'm like, well, my life expectancy isn't probably as much as it probably would have been if I didn't care about the club so much. Maybe I would have changed it just a little bit, but who knows, mate. But obviously, that is the last segment of the episode. But before we wrap up the preview episode, mate, for the West Coast Eagles, is there anything else you would like to touch on?
The way you say West Coast Eagles makes them sound like the world's worst team, but honestly, this is if any of you are going to Perth this week who have booked flights, I know there's a few people who have booked to go like probably 10 weeks ago. Probably because when we're up on the second of ladder thinking, oh, this would be a nice trip to Perth in the sun, knock them off on the way to a top 4 spot. But yeah, I respect it. And make sure you make a weekend out of it. Don't just make the weekend revolve around Carlton, because otherwise it could be a terrible weekend for you. But yeah, support them, I guess, get around them. But fuck, I'm not even sure they deserve getting around at the moment.
There was a person that actually commented on our review episode about, I mean, obviously them going to the game, and they were just like, you know what, we're just going to make a weekend out of it. Like, we don't even care about the result, which I would be the exact same mindset, to be honest. We're not going to waste our, like, we're not going to be depressed or sad about whatever the result is. You know what, I'm just going to enjoy my weekend away in Perth, and it might be a weekend off work, who knows, but they obviously have a weekend to travel over to Perth and just enjoy, as you said, the sun. They may not have been to Optus Stadium before, so enjoy that great stadium. Have you been? You've been.
Yeah, it's very, very good. Yeah, very good. Just very new, and the vibe is quite good. I didn't go to a West Coast one, but the Freo fans were definitely in a very world of their own.
Yeah, a bit like Port Adelaide, mate.
Yeah. Just they're all very safe in their own stadium, aren't they? They can say whatever they like. But I think it's different here, because sometimes you don't get to say what you like because you've got other Melbourne teams. They're very safe over there, I feel.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, no, I mean, I obviously went in Feb this year, so it's obviously a great set. So all the best to the person who's going to the game this week. Safe travels, and obviously, hopefully, the Carlton Footy Club can get the win. But if not, as you said on the comment, just enjoy it because don't waste your fucking energy like we all do on this fucking club, this failure of a club. But Devin Boy, obviously, is there anything else you would like to touch on? I think I've already asked that, but is there anything else you want to touch on?
Oh God, I don't even know anymore. I think we've covered it pretty well. I think it's actually been a pretty good preview. We've covered some topics as well. But yeah, let's just don't know what's going on. I think about it every fucking second of the day. Honestly, every half an hour, it just pops in my head that we might have to wait 12 more months to see us play a final. Just let that sink in.
It's all good though because they've got their Ashton Moyer bobbleheads.
Lewis Young bobblehead. Oh no! For the Saints game, they'll have a Paddy Dow Memorial bobblehead.
We're in shambles here. I mean, it's good to get through another episode, but fuck me, it's hard. It's just hard to talk about them at the moment. But yeah, very, very well said, Paddy Dow. Well, wait. Yeah, but to every single blue bagger, it's out there. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Obviously, we've reached the 1,000 mark, but we're obviously still trying to grow the channel as much as possible. We understand if you don't want to watch Carlton content, we completely understand it. But if you do enjoy our episodes and if you find us somewhat entertaining and you do want to come on for a bit of a laugh or some entertainment, please do subscribe because it definitely does help the channel. But also support our podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. There's a few others there as well. But also support our social platforms as well, Duffy Boy. But to you, Duffy Boy, to every single blue bagger out there, I've got the scarf back this time. Ah, the baggers!